Chapter 622. The imperial banquet ended in everyone's shock. Xianyuan Yutian sealed the mouths of all the ministers and forbade them from talking about what happened at the banquet. Di Baichen's identity was extraordinary, and they all understood the seriousness of it. They also understood that what happened at the banquet tonight was reasonable. For a moment, although the civil and military officials kept their mouths shut, they told their families not to offend Prince Chen and Princess Chen no matter what. After the banquet, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen went to the general's mansion together. In Bailey Hongzhuang's memory, this place had never brought her a moment of joy, and all the memories were unbearable to recall. It seemed that this was the last time she would come here. After today, her relationship with the general's mansion would come to an end. Obviously, Bailey Jintao did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to come. He rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was not hallucinating. He wanted to say something, but he did not know where to start. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was proud of him, but he was grateful that Bailey Hongzhuang did not make things difficult for him at the banquet tonight. Otherwise, he would not end up better than Li Chengqian. Bailey Hongzhuang, why are you here? At this moment, Bailey Haoshuan did not dare to be disrespectful to Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, as long as Di Baichen said a word, he would lose his life. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bailey Haoshuan lightly, but ignored him. She turned to Di Baichen beside her and said, "Wait for me here for a moment." Di Baichen nodded slightly and said, "Go ahead." She knew Bailey Hongzhuang's plan. The reason why she did not make things difficult for Bailey Jintao today was that she grew up in the general's mansion, and it was mainly because of Qin Yun. Bailey Haoshuan's face was a little pale. Bailey Hongzhuang ignored him, but he did not dare to say anything. "General Bailey, let's go inside," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Hearing the way Bailey Hongzhuang addressed him, Bailey Jintao knew that Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't forgiven him. His face revealed some disappointment, completely different from his previous high-spirited self. "Okay." Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang sat across from Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Jintao, who had always been stern towards Bailey Hongzhuang, was now somewhat uncomfortable. Even he himself was not aware of this change. The atmosphere was slightly silent. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first to speak. "General Bailey, I'm here today to tell you something." Bailey Jintao nodded. "Speak." "Actually, I'm not your daughter." As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang's face abruptly changed. Thinking of all the differences between Bailey Hongzhuang and the past, could it be that the woman in front of him wasn't the real Hongzhuang? "Then who are you?" Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand and said, "General Bailey, don't misunderstand. I'm the real Bailey Hongzhuang. It's just that I'm not your child. Back then, Madame Qin pretended to be pregnant in order to win your favor. In fact, she didn't have a child. I'm just her adopted child." How is this possible?" Bailey Jintao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. He did not dare to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. "You didn't visit Madame Qin after she was pregnant, so you didn't see through this lie. In fact, I only found out about this when I was organizing Madame Qin's belongings." Chapter 623. Bailey Jintao fell into silence. Bailey Hongzhuang's words made him unable to refute. In fact, as Bailey Hongzhuang said, when Qin Yeyun was pregnant, he did not pay much attention to it until Bailey Hongzhuang was born. It was entirely possible that Qin Yeyun had concealed this matter. As Bailey Hongzhuang said, Qin Yeyun did not have to write such a lie in the diary. Then there was only one possibility. This was the truth. "No matter what, I grew up in the general's mansion for more than 10 years. I hope that General Bailey can live a good life. I believe that the royal family will not mistreat you for Di Baichen's sake. You and I are strangers now." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was indifferent and calm. She really did not have any feelings for Bailey Jintao. In the past 10 years, although they were father and daughter in name, they did not have the slightest interaction. If it were not for Qin Yeyun, what would happen to the general's mansion in the future would have nothing to do with her. When her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang had already stood up. Without saying anything more, she directly walked out of the room. She and Bailey Jintao were like strangers, and there was nothing to talk about. Bailey Jintao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back as she left. He did not see the diary left by Qin Yeyun with his own eyes, so he did not know whether what Bailey Hongzhuang said was true or not. However, he was sure that Bailey Hongzhuang would have nothing to do with the general's mansion in the future. All of this was destroyed by his own hands. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang leave with Di Beichen so quickly, Bailey Haoxuan could not help but run into the room and ask, "Father, what did Bailey Hongzhuang say to you?" Bailey Jintao waved his hand as if he had aged again in an instant. "She will not come back in the future." Hearing this, Bailey Haoxuan was stunned. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were so outstanding, he wanted to use their limelight to develop his career. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang had nothing to do with the general's mansion? Bailey Haoxuan's wishful thinking was ruined just like that, and his expression turned ugly. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang walked on the street. There were very few people on the street, and their shadows were elongated under the moonlight. His big hand held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand tightly. Di Beichen asked, "Di Beichen, how do you feel?" "His Highness, Haoxuan's Heart's His Majesty, Hongzhuang's SSSS mansion." "Or not." "Both." Di Beichen stared into Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. He only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang was happy, but he could feel the disappointment in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. "My mood at the banquet was naturally very good. The humiliation I suffered over the years was completely vented today." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. From then on, she was no longer the miss of the general's mansion who was ridiculed and trampled on everywhere. She had become a person that everyone looked up to. "As for the general's mansion, I don't belong there. It's just that things have changed, and I feel a little more emotional." She had all of Bailey Hongzhuang's memories, but she was not Bailey Hongzhuang after all. She could not really empathize with Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, she only sighed for the former Bailey Hongzhuang. She did not know how Bailey Hongzhuang would feel after knowing everything today. As for herself, she was still full of hope. The path she would take in the future was what she cared about the most. Chapter 624. The next day, the sun was just right, the sky was high and the clouds were light. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen packed up and left Feng Bo country. This place didn't have much meaning for them now. The school holidays were only for a month. They had already spent half a month here and stayed here for 5 days. Now it was time to return to Azure Water School. Ji Wenbin, Dong Sairu and Du Tianxue all came to send them off. They faintly felt that after Bailey Hongzhuang left, she wouldn't be coming back in a short period of time. After waving goodbye, Bailey Hongzhuang gracefully turned around, valiantly riding her horse away. Ji Wenbin and the other two looked at the two figures galloping away, their hearts full of blessings. They didn't know what realm Bailey Hongzhuang would reach the next time they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to Azure Water School, the school was already bustling again. Many students had already returned, and even more students hadn't left before. He Mu appeared in front of Di Beichen. "Young master." Di Beichen nodded slightly. "What happened?" He Mu had been by his side for a long time. If it wasn't for something important, He Mu wouldn't appear in front of him and Bailey Hongzhuang without permission. During this time, he only wanted to enjoy some private time with Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't want another pair of eyes beside them, so He Mu didn't follow them back to Feng Bo country. Hearing this, He Mu couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. His expression was a bit more hesitant. Di Beichen waved his hand. "Say it. There shouldn't be any secrets between him and Bailey Hongzhuang. He also didn't have anything to hide." Something happened in Tiangang sect. Miss Han was very dissatisfied with what happened in the ruins. Those people are getting restless again. He Mu's face revealed some helplessness. In fact, the young master had been staying at Azure Water School for a long time, and the people of Tiangang Zone had already complained. In addition, we've inquired about the 9th grade purple zoysia. However, if young master doesn't appear, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for us to obtain it. A hint of contemplation appeared in Di Beichen's eyes. Those people from the Tiangang sect were already restless. Once he left, he was afraid that they would think of ways to make trouble again. It was just that he did not know when his master would return. When his master returned, the situation should be much better. Beichen, go ahead. Bailey Hongzhuang said, I'm not in any danger at the Azure Water School, you don't have to worry about me. The 9th grade purple zoysia is very important, you must find a way to get it. She believed that Di Beichen would be able to deal with the problems of Tiangang sect. After all, Di Beichen had been silent for 3 years and had settled everything in just a few months. Now that he had only left for a few months, what waves could those people from the Tiangang sect make? She was more concerned about the 9th grade purple zoysia. These were treasures that could only be encountered by chance. It was rare to see one, so naturally she couldn't let it go. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, a little worry between his brows. Why don't you come with me? He didn't feel at ease leaving Bailey Hongzhuang here alone. If she encountered any danger, he could. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, but shook her head, a gentle smile spreading from the corners of her mouth. Chapter 625. She understood that with how outstanding Di Beichen was, those people who wanted to deal with Di Beichen were definitely not simple people. If Di Beichen went alone, then he would be invulnerable. But if she went with him, then she would become Di Beichen's weak spot. She naturally didn't want to become Di Beichen's weak spot. What she wanted was to stand by Di Beichen's side openly without fear of any threats or challenges. She didn't want to rely on Di Beichen for protection. That was her pride as the head of the Bailey family, and also the pride in her heart. Her pride made her unwilling to become an accessory. She wanted to rely on her own strength to create a world for herself. She believed that it wouldn't be long before Han Xiling would no longer have any sense of pride in front of her, because she would completely crush the confidence of those cultivators who were originally unusually arrogant in front of her. Di Beichen looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. He saw Bailey Hongzhuang's unyielding spirit. That was her unique pride, burning hot and strong, firm and resolute. If Bailey Hongzhuang had given him some other reason, perhaps he would have rejected her. But the reason that Bailey Hongzhuang had given him made him unable to find an excuse to reject her. Because that was Bailey Hongzhuang's pride and obsession. How could he let Bailey Hongzhuang give up? As long as he truly loved Bailey Hongzhuang, he would never let Bailey Hongzhuang give up. In reality, after knowing Bailey Hongzhuang for a long time, he had long understood the pride in his wife's bones. Even if it wasn't obvious on normal days, that was only because she had never deliberately shown it. He believed that it wouldn't be long before Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to stand by his side openly. He Mu stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. He had long known that Bailey Hongzhuang was different from ordinary girls. It was because of this that the young master had a whole new level of respect for her. However, when he heard Miss Bailey's words, he couldn't help but feel admiration. Originally, he was worried that the young master's devotion to Miss Bailey would drag down his development. Now, it seemed that the situation was not like this at all. Just from Miss Bailey's words, one could feel her lofty aspirations. All right. Di Beichen put his hands on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. I'll settle the riot in Tiangang sect, and get the 9th grade purple Ganoderma, then I'll come back to find you. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black almond-shaped eyes, as if he wanted to imprint Bailey Hongzhuang in his heart. This was a short separation, and it wouldn't be long before he returned. However, right now, he was unwilling to part with Bailey Hongzhuang. He believed that his wife would understand his reluctance. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, and a warm and beautiful smile appeared on her lips. I'll wait for you to come back. If two people had feelings for each other for a long time, why would they stay together day and night? Azure Water School's cultivation was of no help to Di Beichen. The reason he stayed here was purely to accompany her. She would stay at Azure Water School and improve her strength as soon as possible. Then she would be able to travel with Di Beichen. In the next moment, Di Beichen left a light kiss between Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows, his eyes full of tenderness. Then I'll leave. Go. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were also full of affection. She hoped that by the time Di Beichen returned, her strength would have improved again. Chapter 6:26. Hongzhuang, you're back. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to open the door, the opposite door had already opened. Xia Jiqing poked her head out, and her pretty face was full of excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. When did you come back? You came very early. I came to the school 2 days ago, and I was bored at home. I saw that it was almost time to come back. Xia Jiqing laughed. Bailey Hongzhuang looked back, but did not see any trace of Di Beichen. She could not help but wonder, Hongzhuang, Di Beichen did not come back with you? She knew how close Di Beichen was to Hongzhuang. It was reasonable to say that since Hongzhuang was here, Di Beichen should not be anywhere else. He had some things to deal with, so he left first. It is estimated that he will return to the school in a few days. Xia Jiqing's face showed a touch of understanding. You're right, Di Beichen's identity really has a lot of things to deal with. Now, Di Beichen's identity was no longer a secret in their eyes. As the young lord of Tiangang sect, he must be very busy. In order to be able to accompany Hongzhuang, Di Beichen must be under a lot of pressure. After Xia Jiqing pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to chat, Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house. Now she had been studying inscription for some time. Although she practiced many times in the Chaos Ring, it was all virtual practice with the old man. She had never really drawn an inscription. Taking advantage of this opportunity, it was better to draw an inscription to try. Practice makes perfect. Every inscription master was born under the accumulation of countless inscription materials. Just like alchemists, they could only be cultivated under the accumulation of countless medicinal materials, because only after many times of practice, they would have an intuition. This kind of intuition could not be understood by others. It was like knowing how many materials to add, how much strength to the stroke was just right. This was the intuition of an inscription master. If one had this intuition, when drawing inscriptions in the future, the success rate would be higher and higher. Bailey Hongzhuang bought some inscription materials in Kanglan City. The inscription she wanted to draw this time was not complicated, so the materials were not difficult to find. What's more, because of the existence of Kanglan School, Kanglan City's trade was very prosperous. It was not difficult for her to find these basic materials. Inscriptions were made up of complex geometrical figures. Different figures had different effects. Stacking them in different order would also have different effects. In the eyes of others, these might be some incomprehensible but very complicated patterns. Only inscriptionists would understand the meaning of these patterns. However, just as the alchemist's pill recipe was confidential, the inscription master would only let others see the specific pattern when drawing the inscription. Once the inscription was formed, only a simple pattern would appear, and all the structure would not be seen. Inscription was a very tedious process. It took a long time to configure the inscription liquid. If there was a problem in the configuration, it also needed to be redone. The degree of precision was not simple compared to alchemy. Chapter 6:27. Bailey Hongzhuang grinded the inscription liquid and prepared the inscription paper before she started to draw. This time, she did not intend to copy too complicated inscriptions. She felt that the inscription technique that the old man taught her was very good. Although the level of the inscription was not high, she felt that the effect was not small. For some ordinary cultivators, as long as the inscription was imprinted on the weapon, then the power of the weapon would increase. Do not underestimate this little bit of help. When the power of the weapon increased, the combat power of the cultivator would also increase a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang calmed herself down. She picked up the inscription pen and dipped it in the inscription liquid and began to draw. The fiery red inscription liquid was like cinnabar, but it was rippling with a little bit of golden light, bright and shining. The moment the inscription pen touched the inscription paper, Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit had reached the peak. All of her mental power was focused on drawing the inscription. As an alchemist, she had always been able to concentrate her mental power. At this moment, her mind was only focused on the inscription she was about to draw. Other than that, there was nothing else. Long before the pen, she had already thought of the inscription pattern. Therefore, she did not hesitate and directly began to draw. All inscriptions needed to be finished in one stroke. There could not be a break in the middle. Once there was a break, then the drawing would be wrong. Not only that, the difference in strength of the pen and the uneven inscription liquid would lead to the failure of the inscription. Therefore, becoming an inscription master was more difficult than becoming an alchemist. It was precisely because of this that the number of inscriptionists was even rarer than alchemists. When Bailey Hongzhuang was drawing, she found a problem that she did not find in the virtual practice. The inscription pen was a little stagnant during the drawing process. It was this little stagnation that led to the failure of the inscription. Bailey Hongzhuang did not care. Failure was the mother of success. The reason why she prepared so many inscription papers was that she was already prepared for failure. The second time, failure. The third time, failure. Until the eighth time, Bailey Hongzhuang was finally able to use the inscription pen to draw a smooth line. The reason why there was stagnation before was because she did not control the strength of the pen well enough. After the ninth time, Bailey Hongzhuang drew more than half of the inscription. She suddenly found that the inscription liquid on the pen was not enough, because she had used too much inscription liquid before. The 10th time, failure. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Baisher sat in a row, quietly watching Bailey Hongzhuang fail repeatedly. They sighed with emotion. Once Master got serious, he was still very scary. It was as if she didn't know what failure was and what depression was. She only had a stubborn heart. As long as he persevered, he would succeed sooner or later. The three beasts remained silent, not daring to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang. At the same time, they were secretly cheering for their master. Until the 21st time, Bailey Hongzhuang finally succeeded in drawing an inscription. Above the inscription drawing, a fiery red light flashed, like a splendid firework, and a six-pointed star pattern quietly formed. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into a smile. After 20 failures, she had finally succeeded in drawing an inscription. Finally, I succeeded in drawing an inscription. Looking at the red six-pointed star pattern, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a touch of satisfaction, then she put it aside and continued to draw. Chapter 6:28. 22nd attempt, failure. 23rd attempt, failure. On the 30th attempt, Bailey Hongzhuang successfully drew another one. Compared to the previous failure rate, there was an improvement. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang drew 3 inscription drawings. It wasn't because she didn't want to continue, but because she had used up all of her inscription fluid. If she wanted to continue, she would have to reconfigure the inscription fluid. However, in her current situation, it was not suitable for her to continue. This was because she had already used up a lot of her mental power. Inscription was something that consumed a lot of mental power. It did not require any elemental energy, only mental power was consumed. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang stop, the 3 beasties quickly jumped behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He and Xiao Bai began to massage Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, while Baisher was in charge of massaging her back. Bailey Hongzhuang packed up her things. It seemed that if she wanted to improve her inscription technique, she would need a lot of practice. As for the effects of these 3 inscription drawings, she wasn't completely sure. It would be better to sell them first to understand the market. In her previous life, she didn't know much about inscription. Now, she didn't know much about inscription because the number of inscription masters was too small. Until now, she hadn't met a single inscription master. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang brought the 3 inscription drawings to the auction. Even in Songlan City, there were no inscription shops that sold inscription. The reason why she didn't sell it at the academy was because it was her first time drawing an inscription. She wasn't completely sure about the effects of the inscription. She didn't understand the market price, so she couldn't directly quote a price. If she auctioned it at the academy, the students would give her face and raise the price. However, if the inscription didn't meet her expectations, she didn't want to see that happen. Therefore, under these circumstances, she could only choose to sell it at the auction. She believed that the appraiser at the auction would have a certain understanding of the inscription. As for the price at the auction, she had no qualms about it. Bailey Hongzhuang wore a black cloak to the auction. She didn't want to reveal her identity. She was still a newbie, so it was better if fewer people knew about this. Tianxiang Auction House was located in many cities of the Shengxian continent, and Azure Water City had a branch of Tianxiang Auction House. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in without hesitation. She had a good impression of the Tianxiang Auction House. Moreover, the Tianxiang Auction House had a resounding reputation. Presumably, there would be many customers. After seeing the 3 inscriptions, the appraiser's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly changed a bit. The number of inscriptions was very small, and the inscription technique was extremely complex. Some famous inscription masters would directly inscribe inscriptions on weapons. Most of the inscriptions drawn on inscription blueprints were not high-level inscriptions. Even so, inscriptions were still sought after by many practitioners, and low-level inscriptions also had a huge market. This was because every cultivator wished to increase the power of their weapons. How many cultivators were there in the Shengxian continent? He did not dare to imagine. Because of this, inscriptions had always been a hot commodity. "Miss, what's the effect of your inscription?" the appraiser asked. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment and said, "This inscription has a fire attribute. Once it is stored on a weapon, it will have a fire effect and increase its lethality." Chapter 629. After Bailey Hongzhuang gave the inscription to the appraiser, she returned to Songlan School. This inscription was the simplest inscription, so she didn't expect it to sell for a high price. What she wanted to know was the effect of the weapon used by the buyer. As long as the buyer was from Songlan City, she believed that she would be able to get some information. After returning to the dormitory, Bailey Hongzhuang went into seclusion. She put all of her spiritual power into drawing the inscription. Once her spiritual power was exhausted, she began to cultivate. When her spiritual power was restored, she continued to draw the inscription. She spent all of her time drawing the inscription and cultivating. Every time her spiritual power was exhausted, Bailey Hongzhuang's face would turn pale, and her mind would feel empty. However, Bailey Hongzhuang found that in this process, her spiritual power had improved to a certain extent. Her spiritual power was already very strong compared to ordinary people, so it was very difficult to improve her spiritual power. She never thought that this method would be beneficial to her spiritual power. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang was so busy that she didn't know what fatigue was. Under such practice, her inscription technique had also improved by quite a bit. Over the past few days, she had been drawing the same inscription. What she cared about was not the effect of the inscription, but the feeling of drawing the inscription. Although inscription and alchemy were both very delicate work, there was a slight difference between the two. Every time an alchemist refined a new pill, there would be a huge challenge. Even if they succeeded this time, it didn't mean that they would succeed the next time. Inscription technique was different. As long as an inscription master mastered the method of drawing the inscription, the success rate would greatly increase. Even if the next inscription was a brand new one, as long as the structure of the inscription was understood, the success rate would still be the same as the success rate of drawing other inscriptions. Therefore, inscription technique was the most difficult, but if one mastered the essence, then the next step would be much easier. Unfortunately, this was the most difficult part of inscription technique, and many people were unable to overcome it. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang received the money sent by Tianxiang auction house. Looking at the amount of money, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. It seemed that inscriptions were still very popular in the market. Her inscription was just an extremely simple inscription, but it was still sold at a good price. However, what made Bailey Hongzhuang helpless was that the person who bid for the inscription was not from Songlan City. That person actually left after bidding for the inscription. This result made Bailey Hongzhuang extremely helpless. She wanted to see the specific effect of the inscription, but it seemed that she had to buy a weapon to try it out. As for her glazed sword, that was naturally impossible. Even if she were to inscribe the glazed sword in the future, she would definitely choose an extremely good inscription. With her current inscription technique, if she were to inscribe on the glass sword, it would really be a waste. Speaking of which, after being nurtured by Bailey Hongzhuang during this period of time, the glazed sword had become much closer to her. When she was in the ruins, she had only left her own breath on the glazed sword, but the glazed sword did not completely accept her. After a weapon reached a certain level, it would have its own spirituality, and it would choose its own master. Chapter 630. Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained Bai Qing's inheritance in the ruins, and Bai Qing was also very generous to Bailey Hongzhuang. Not only did she give her best martial arts to Bailey Hongzhuang, she even helped Bailey Hongzhuang erase the mark that belonged to her on the glass sword. Bai Qing was a strong person, and the glass sword was used by Bai Qing all year round, so the mark on it could be said to be deeply rooted. If Bailey Hongzhuang relied on her own strength, it would take a long time to completely erase the mark that belonged to Bai Qing on the glass sword. If she was the Bailey Hongzhuang of her previous life, it would be very easy to erase the mark, but now it was really inferior. With the help of Bai Qing, the tacit understanding between her and the glass sword had become much simpler. Now she was getting more and more comfortable with using the glass sword, and it would definitely become a big weapon in the future. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door, and Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door after putting away the inscriptions. Outside the door, Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with emotion. Hongzhuang, you are too hard, right? How long have you been in seclusion? Since Bailey Hongzhuang came to the college, she stayed in the house all day long. She didn't have to think. She knew that Hongzhuang must be in seclusion. However, wasn't this seclusion too hard? Once she went in, she didn't come out. Even though she knew that Hongzhuang had always been very diligent in her cultivation, but this was too exaggerated. Hongzhuang, you haven't come out these days. Jiqing is very worried about you. Bai Junyu also echoed. If it wasn't for the occasional movement from your house, Jiqing and I would have thought that you had fainted. Although cultivators could go into closed-door cultivation for different periods of time, and some cultivators who were extremely powerful could go into closed-door cultivation for decades at a time. However, Hongzhuang's closed-door cultivation was quite long given their current abilities. If it were him, he would suffocate to death if he stayed in the house for such a long time. An awkward smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She had always been serious and couldn't care less about other things. In her eyes, the time spent in seclusion wasn't long, but in the eyes of Jiqing and the others, it was indeed a long time. Why are you looking for me? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Xia Jiqing nodded. The principal asked the students of our special enrollment class to go to the principal's office together. There should be something to announce. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. The principal had always sent them over for something, but she didn't know what it was this time. Hong Zhuang, while you were in seclusion, Dongfang Yu and the others came to ask about you, but they were worried that you were at a critical juncture, so they didn't dare to disturb you. Today, I heard the movement from your room, so I dared to knock on the door. Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a sigh. She had heard that Gong Shaoqing was a cultivation madman, but now it seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang's degree of craziness was no less than Gong Shaoqing's. I've made you worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were a little apologetic. During this time, she had put her heart and soul into inscription technique, and simply didn't care about other things. Only when she went out for a short time to auction the inscription, she was afraid that everyone thought she went out to buy dry food. As long as you're okay. Xia Jiqing smiled brightly. You pack up and we'll go to the principal's office. Chapter 631. When Bailey Hongzhuang packed up and walked out of the dormitory, Dongfang Yu, Gong Shaoqing, and the others were already gathered at the door, waiting for her. You've all come out, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. When everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang come out, their faces also showed a smile, but there was no lack of worry in their eyes. Hongzhuang, you've been in seclusion for a really long time. Everyone is worried about you. Zhang Yunfeng walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side, her pretty and youthful face showing a little worry. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Don't worry about me. I used to be in seclusion like this, so I unknowingly stayed in the room for such a long time. Hearing this, everyone was slightly stunned, and then they also showed a helpless smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's seclusion like this had already made them sigh with emotion. Often like this, everyone looked at each other, the worry in their eyes still had not dissipated. They had known Bailey Hongzhuang for a while, but they had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang in seclusion like this before. From Xia Jiqing's mouth, they already knew that Di Beichen had to go back to Tiangang's sect to deal with something, so now he was not at the college. They already knew the identity of Di Beichen, and that Han Xiling was definitely not a simple character. The last time Han Xiling had already expressed his attitude. They were afraid that if Han Xiling was sandwiched between Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, there would be a lot of obstacles in their relationship. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing mentioned this before, Xia Jiqing did not pay too much attention to it. Now looking at Bailey Hongzhuang in seclusion, it must be related to Di Beichen. Not only Xia Jiqing had such thoughts, but Zhang Yunfeng and the others also had the same thoughts. It's good that you're fine. Let's go to the principal's office first. Zhang Yunfeng held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand with a smile, thinking about how to make Bailey Hongzhuang happy. Xia Jiqing also nodded. Let's go, otherwise the principal will be waiting for us. After saying that, everyone walked towards the principal's office together. However, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that everyone's gazes were different from before, but she couldn't figure out what was different. She only felt that it was a little strange. Very quickly, everyone arrived at the principal's office. Principal Ren Tianxiong and Vice Principal Huan Chuyu were both present. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrive, the two principals revealed smiles on their faces. Greetings, Principal and Vice Principal. Everyone bowed. Ren Tianxiong smiled faintly. I called everyone here today because I have something to tell you. Everyone's eyes focused on Ren Tianxiong. They knew that Ren Tianxiong had called them over for a reason. Does everyone know about Lingyin College? Ren Tianxiong said slowly. Hearing this, everyone's face showed a touch of surprise. They had naturally heard of the name Lingyin College, but they did not know why Ren Tianxiong would mention it. Bailey Hongzhuang also had a certain understanding of Lingyin College. When Fu Hongbo and Lu Huaiyan invited her to Kanglin College, she had learned about the colleges in Shengxian continent. Chapter 632. Looking at the slightly changed expressions of the crowd, Ren Tianxiong understood that with the name of Lingyin College, there were very few cultivators who did not know about it. Since everyone knows about Lingyin College, I will not introduce it more. In our area there are 3 colleges. Among them, Lingyin College is the most famous and the strongest. Kanglan College is on par with Beihai College. However, in recent years, Beihai College has been leaning towards Lingyin College. Therefore, the relationship between Beihai College and Lingyin College is very good, and our Kanglan College is slightly inferior. In the end, Ren Tianxiong's words were heavy. When the three colleges were first established, the three colleges had always been on par with each other, and there was not much difference. Ren Tianxiong was the arrogant head of Kanglan College. Seeing the decline of Kanglan College step by step, his mood was naturally very heavy. I heard that the reason why Lingyin College has its current reputation is because they relied on the Qing dynasty. With the support of the Qing dynasty, the equipment of Lingyin College has greatly improved. This is not surprising. Gong Shaoqing's eyes flashed with wisdom. Not only Lingyin College, but Beihai College had also begun to accept the sponsorship of the dynasty. Only Kanglan College had always kept a distance from the dynasty. It was precisely because of this that Kanglan College was at the bottom of the three colleges. If Kanglan College also accepted the help of the dynasty, the strength of Kanglan College would also be improved. Ren Tianxiong sighed. The establishment of the three colleges was only to cultivate talents and maintain neutrality. This was the idea of the first principle of the Kanglan College. It is precisely because of this that I have always adhered to the beliefs of the first principle to run the college. When Lingyin College had the idea of relying on the Qing dynasty, I stopped it. But now everyone is blinded by greed and has long forgotten the essence of the original persistence. Ren Tianxiong's face was indescribable. His bright eyes flashed with a faint light, as if he was thinking of the distant past. Everyone looked at each other. Looking at the appearance of the principal, their mood was a little heavy. It seemed that what the principal had told them was related to Lingyin College. The dark eyes flashed with wisdom. Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed some things. It was not easy for Ren Tianxiong to maintain the belief of being the first principal to run the school. From this point alone, it could be seen that Ren Tianxiong was not a profit-oriented person. The principal of Lingyin College was more utilitarian. If the college was independent, then there would be no restrictions on the students. Every student who returned from their studies would receive the best blessings from the academy. No matter where the school goes in the future, no matter what it does, the school will support it. This was because the original purpose of the Azure Water School was to help the Shengxian continent cultivate talents. And Lingyin College had joined the Qing dynasty. Presumably, these people were all prepared for the Qing dynasty. It was unknown how many cultivators of Lingyin College had become people of the Qing dynasty. This had a purpose. In this regard, she couldn't say who was right and who was wrong. She could only say that Ren Tianxiong was able to stick to his heart and run the school. It was really admirable. Chapter 633. As soon as these words came out, everyone's face changed a bit. So they were likely to participate in the competition between the three colleges? This time you have surpassed the children of the aristocratic families in the ancient ruins. Therefore, during this time, you have been in the limelight, and the name of Kanglan College has also spread. Many cultivators have come to become students of Kanglan College. With such a big movement, some people can't hold back, so they propose to hold the college tournament in advance. A sneer appeared in Ren Tianxiong's eyes. He knew very well what those people were thinking. However, among the three colleges, Lingyin College and Beihai College were in the same boat. Even if he raised an objection, it would have no effect. This time, the college tournament will be held in Lingyin College. I am going to let you participate. What do you think? Ren Tianxiong's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In the entire Kanglan College, the strength of the students in the special enrollment class was undoubtedly the strongest. If they wanted to get good results in the college tournament, they naturally had to be sent. Gong Shaoqing and the others looked at each other. They had no reason to refuse. Being conservative would only lead to stagnation. If they could go to Lingyin College and see more powerful cultivators, it would be of great help to them. Lingyin College was now so strong, presumably they would be able to get some pointers from the cultivation methods of the Lingyin College. If they were able to obtain a good ranking in the inter-academy competition, their reputation would soar. Every time the inter-school tournament was held, some cultivators would be able to make a name for themselves. Once they were ranked, their status would rise, and some forces would even extend an olive branch to them. Therefore, the qualification to participate in the college tournament was something that many students were looking forward to. Originally, there were still 2 years before the college tournament. They only felt that their time was not coincidental. They did not expect that the tournament would be held in advance. This was simply a pie in the sky. Bailey Hongzhuang also wanted to see the other 2 colleges in addition to Kanglin College. Recently, she had been practicing in seclusion and had no opponent. If she could meet a comparable opponent in the college tournament, she was also looking forward to it. "We are willing," everyone answered together. Listening to everyone's answer, a gratified smile appeared on Ren Tianxiong's face. "I hope you can get good results in this college tournament." Everyone's expression was faintly filled with excitement. The inter-academy competition was a very big platform, and everyone's attention was on it. Huan Chuyu, who had been silent, also said at this moment, "In this college tournament, in addition to the martial arts tournament, there is also an alchemy tournament. Qinyue, prepare for the alchemy tournament." Lu Qinyue nodded. Since she came back from the ruins, she had made her future goals. She decided to put all her energy into refining pills and concentrate on her Tao. Her future achievements would also be better. "Everyone, don't just be happy, our college has been in the limelight for a while. Lingyin College and Beihai College suddenly proposed a college tournament. It is very likely that they will target us. You have to be mentally prepared." Chapter 634. As the voice of Huan Chuyu fell, everyone's face was a little more dignified. They also understood the meaning of Huan Chuyu. The possibility of a banquet at Hongmen was not small. They really should not be too optimistic. "We understand." Everyone nodded. They would be mentally prepared. Although they did not know what the plans of Lingyin College and Beihai College were, they could only take one step at a time. Seeing that everyone had already understood, Huan Chuyu nodded with relief. What he was most worried about was that the students would participate in the tournament in high spirits only to have their self-confidence destroyed. This kind of thing had happened before. As a cultivator, self-confidence was extremely important. If their self-confidence was destroyed and they questioned the path they were taking, then the situation would be terrible. "Go back and prepare. In 3 days you will leave for the Qing dynasty." Yes. Everyone left the principal's office, but their mood was very complicated. Everyone was pondering, not knowing what would happen next. "In my opinion, Lingyin College and Beihai College must be jealous of us, so they want to hold this tournament to dampen our spirit," Xia Jiqing said. Dongfang Yu nodded slightly. "Among the 3 colleges, Lingyin College and Beihai College have joined forces. Naturally, they want to crush our college. We have to be more careful. Since they suddenly proposed a tournament, they must have the confidence to win." Gong Shaoqing's face was slightly heavy. "The challenge this time is very big. To put it bluntly, Lingyin College and Beihai College just did not want to see Kanglin College in the limelight, so they wanted to crush them in the tournament. As a result, the arrogance of Kanglin College would be suppressed, and many cultivators would turn to their arms. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Since we have no other choice, then let's just boldly walk over and deal with whatever comes our way." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile, and her bright phoenix eyes flashed with confidence. For this kind of thing, it was useless to worry too much. In the end, it was only the students of the 2 colleges that were competing with them. If it was a fair fight, if they lost, then it was their own skill that was not as good as others. But if the other party used dirty tricks, once she found out, she would definitely not let the other party be happy. After hearing the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, the people who were originally nervous suddenly relaxed a little. Indeed, it was useless to worry now. It was better to work hard to improve their strength in the process. When the time came, they would have more confidence. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house and began to prepare some things that might be needed at that time. The last time she bought a lot of herbs from Ji Wenbin, she took the opportunity to prepare some things. Some things, although they were not used on ordinary days, they could play a decisive role. Just like how they dealt with Yi Huqing before, it was better to be prepared. In the remaining 2 days, Bailey Hongzhuang practiced in the cultivation tower. After this period of retreat, she was not far from breaking through to the second level of the Red Realm. Since she was going to the Qing dynasty later, she would break through to the second level of the Red Realm as soon as possible. The more strength she had, the more confident she would be. Chapter 635. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others gathered at the gate of the college. When the students of the ordinary class saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others packing their bags and preparing to leave, their eyes were filled with envy. This was the difference between the students of the ordinary class and the students of the special enrollment class. They could only watch the students of the special enrollment class go out every day, while they could only practice day after day in the college. The students of the ordinary class needed to practice in the college for a year before they could start to go out and take on tasks. I heard that the students of the special enrollment class are going to Lingyin College to participate in the college tournament. I also heard that the college tournament was suddenly brought forward. If they can get good results in the tournament, they will be famous in the future. I thought that the college tournament would be held 2 years later. I thought that I still had time, but now it is suddenly brought forward. It is a pity. Everyone was either envious or regretful, but they all hoped that the students of the special enrollment class could get good results. After all, they were all students of the Kanglan College. If the students of the Kanglan College achieved good results in the college tournament, as a member of the Kanglan College, they would feel proud. Since everyone is ready, let's go. Huan Chuyu, as the leader of the team, was responsible for leading the students to the Qing dynasty. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, as the mentors of the special enrollment class, naturally needed to go with them. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded slightly. The distance to the Qing dynasty was not close, so they did not have much time. You go first, we will follow behind, Lu Huayan said. Although this time they were not practicing, letting all the students go by themselves could also exercise some of their abilities, and at the same time, it would also help with the tacit understanding between them. Listening to Lu Huayan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not surprised. They had already experienced this situation before. Along the way, without Lu Huayan and the others by their side, they were able to have a lot more freedom. The next moment, everyone stepped on the road to the Qing dynasty. It will take us at least half a month to get there. The Qing dynasty is really far. After seeing the vice principal and the 2 mentors leave, Bai Junyu also opened his mouth. He had always been a talkative person, making him quiet was the most difficult thing to do. The strength of the Qing dynasty is much stronger than the surrounding countries, such as Fengbo. It is a real big country with a huge territory. Even if we rush for half a month, we will only reach the border of the Qing dynasty. It will take a full month to reach the imperial city. Dongfang Yu raised a finger and looked at the crowd. Then it will take us 2 months just to come and go. Xia Jiqing was speechless. She had never been to a place that was too far away since she was a child. The Qing dynasty was probably the farthest place she had ever been to. Lu Qinyue smiled and nodded. The Qing dynasty is vast and far from our college. The same is true for Beihai College. Among the 3 colleges, Lingyin College is in the center. It is precisely because the journey is so long that the inter-academy competition is held once every 5 years, Gong Shaoqing said. Chapter 636. Dongfang Yu shook his head slightly. That's not the case. Then what is it? There's a rule in the inter-academy competition. Every time, whichever academy comes out on top will be the next inter-academy competition held in that academy, Dongfang Yu explained. So, the last college tournament was won by Lingyin College? Xia Jiqing frowned. Although she had not been to Lingyin College, she had a faint feeling of resistance to it. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing looked at each other, and there was a little helplessness between their expressions. Not only this time, but also the last time Lingyin College won. It is precisely because of this that Kanglan College has been suppressed for 10 years. At the beginning, the strength of Kanglan College was stronger than Lingyin College and Beihai College. Gong Shaoqing's eyes flashed with a touch of heaviness. We have a great responsibility in this tournament. If we lose again, then Lingyin College will have won 3 times in a row. Then, the reputation of our college, which had slightly improved because of the relics, will fall back to the bottom. In any case, we must do our best this time. Gong Shaoqing's handsome and cold face was full of seriousness and determination. He had an indescribable sense of belonging to Kanglan College. Therefore, he did not want to see Kanglan College fall into such a situation. Hearing this, everyone nodded. As a member of Kanglan College, they would do their best for Kanglan College. However, in addition to us, there is also Beihai College. Do the students of Beihai College have no chance of winning? Bai Junyu thought. Since it was the 3 major colleges, there must be competition between them. Why did Gong Shaoqing say that it was only a competition between them and Lingyin College? Beihai College and Lingyin College have already formed an alliance, so the current situation is that they have joined forces to deal with us. At the beginning, the principal had a dispute with the principal of Lingyin College because of the Qing dynasty. If Kanglan College loses this time, then the principal will have to admit that the principal of Lingyin College is right. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others suddenly understood. They did not expect there to be such a story in the middle. At the thought of this, everyone only felt that the burden on their bodies had become heavier. If they were to lose this time, then the principal would lose all face and would be forced to give up on the beliefs that he had upheld for so many years. Damn the principal of Lingyin College, I haven't even seen him and I already feel that he is an annoying guy. Xia Jiqing said angrily. In her eyes, although she hadn't spent much time with the principal, she firmly believed that the principal was an excellent principal. As a member of Tsanglan School, how could they let their principal bow to another principal? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a complicated light. Now it seemed that they could only win this inter-academy competition. Master, in my opinion, this time Lingyin College and Beihai College will definitely try to make you lose. This is not a small problem. Xiao He sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Lingyin College will win this round, so they will definitely put in a lot of money. Chapter 637. Bailey Hongzhuang and her group of 8 people rushed to the Qing dynasty without stopping. As cultivators, their energy and endurance were much stronger than ordinary people. As a result, their speed would be slightly faster than the others. Finally, after half a month of rushing, everyone arrived at the border city of the Qing dynasty. Longuang City. Everyone walked on the streets of Longuang City. As a border city, there was no sense of depression here. On the contrary, it was very lively, people came and went, and the trade was even more prosperous. As soon as they entered the city, everyone's faces showed a smile, and the sense of fatigue on their bodies seemed to be reduced. We've been resting in the forest for the past 2 days and are covered in dust. Now that we've finally arrived at the city, let's have a meal first and then find an inn to rest in. What do you think? Cui Haoyan suggested. In the past few days they had been eating dry food, which was really not as good as hot food. Agreed. Everyone agreed. After rushing for so long, they were a little tired. What's more, when they were resting in the wild, they couldn't completely relax their mental strength, and they didn't dare to sleep too deeply. How could it be more comfortable than resting in an inn? Everyone's stomachs were rumbling with hunger. They only wanted to choose a good restaurant to eat in. Finally, they stopped in front of a restaurant. Along the way, they found that this restaurant was the most lively and bustling place. "Let's go to this one, how about it?" Cui Haoyan smiled. "Good." Everyone's faces were filled with relaxed smiles. As soon as they walked into the restaurant, the smell of wine and food came to the tip of everyone's nose. Seeing that there were guests coming in, the waiter quickly greeted them. "Several guests, there are no private rooms on the second floor. There are only 2 tables in the lobby. What do you think?" Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't care. It was just a meal. Whether it was a private room or not, it didn't matter to them. A group of 8 people, just 4 men and 4 women. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other women sat at one table, while Gong Shaoqing and the other men sat at the next table. Not long after, the food and wine ordered by everyone was served. Looking at the signature dishes, everyone's appetite was great, and they immediately began to eat. As the fish entered her mouth, Xia Jiqing happily narrowed her eyes. "After eating so many days of dry food, now I can finally eat a hot meal. It's really happy." Looking at Xia Jiqing's exaggerated appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry, now that we have arrived in the Qing dynasty, you won't be hungry all the way." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. The border between the 2 countries was always filled with endless yellow sand, and there were no cities or towns. However, once they reached the kingdom, it would be a different story. Along the way to the Qing dynasty's imperial city, there should be many people, which was much better than before. Xia Jiqing nodded. "That's good, I haven't bathed for a few days, my body is also uncomfortable." Just as everyone was chatting happily, suddenly, a few young cultivators dressed in extraordinary clothes walked in with swords in their hands. There were both men and women, and their temperaments were extraordinary. It was clear that they were not ordinary people. "Give us a private room," a man in a yellow robe said, his white and tender face showing a bit of arrogance. The waiter knew at a glance that these young people were not easy to deal with, and his face suddenly showed a helpless expression. Chapter 638. Hearing the waiter's reply, the man in the yellow robe frowned and looked a little unhappy. "Then let's eat in the lobby." The young cultivators shifted their gazes and looked at the hall. However, when they saw that there was not a single empty spot, their faces turned grave. "Dear guests, as you can see, the lobby is full," the waiter said helplessly. "It was not easy to reach Longguang City. I wanted to have a good meal, but I didn't expect it to be full. I don't want to change seats." At this moment, a woman in a red dress in the crowd spoke with displeasure. The woman's appearance was extremely outstanding. Her skin was fair, her lips were red, and her teeth were white. However, the arrogance that flowed out from between her brows forcefully destroyed some of her beauty. Hearing the woman in the red dress, the man in the yellow robe's expression changed a little. He smiled ingratiatingly. "Jinglin, don't worry. Even if there is no seat, I will ask them to arrange a seat. Shui Haolang, my sister is not that close to you." At this moment, a woman in a purple dress suddenly said. She looked at the man in the yellow robe with a mocking gaze. Shui Haolang's face turned ugly. Lu Jingqi always went against him. It was really troublesome. "Shui Haolang, I'm hungry." "Hurry up and deal with it," Lu Jinglin said casually. "I understand." Shui Haolang smiled and nodded. He turned to look at the waiter and said, "Did you hear that? No matter what, you must make an empty table for me. Otherwise, I will tear down your restaurant." The waiter's face turned ugly instantly. He quickly said, "Dear guest, I really have no choice. The other guests have not eaten well. I can't drive them away by force, right? I don't care. I only want to see the result." Shui Haolang looked arrogant. He did not need to do such a small thing. He took out a bag of money and put it on the counter. He said, "As long as you do it well, this is all yours." However, the waiter's expression did not change. "Sir, this is not how our business is run. If we start with this, who would be willing to come to our restaurant to eat in the future?" The people who were eating in the hall looked at Shwe Haolang and the others who were at the door. They had seen domineering people before, but Shwe Haolang's behavior was really disgusting. Another bunch of young masters. Nothing good ever happens when these young masters appear. Aren't they just relying on their family's strength to throw their weight around outside? It's as if they're the best. How annoying. It's best to stay away from this kind of guy. Whoever provokes him will be unlucky. Everyone discussed in low voices. As ordinary people, they had seen many similar second-generation young masters. Xia Jiqing frowned. "These people are too unreasonable." Zhang Yunfeng nodded. "Indeed, looking at their clothes, they should be cultivators." So many cultivators gathered together. Looking at their travel-worn appearance, they should not be natives of Languang City. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Shwe Haolang and the others faintly. Zhang Yunfeng's words made her have some guesses. It shouldn't be so coincidental. After thinking for a while, she continued to eat. She had never liked to meddle in other people's business. Chapter 639. Seeing the waiter's hesitant look, Shwe Haolang was also a little angry. "It seems that you won't know how to do things properly if you don't learn a lesson." As his voice fell, the waiter's face turned white. These people were cultivators and he was just an ordinary person. How could he be their opponent? At this time, a man in a black robe who was with Shwe Haolang slowly said, "Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? Why don't you just drive away 2 tables?" The man's face was cold and there was a little impatience between his eyes. Apparently, he was tired of the dispute between Shwe Haolang and the waiter. Hearing this, Shwe Haolang nodded again and again. His respect for the man in the black robe could be vaguely seen. Lu Jingqi's face was full of smiles. "Xiao Lanmei is right. Why don't we just drive them away?" The next moment, Shwe Haolang and the others walked into the lobby together. Although the waiter wanted to stop them, he did not have the courage. After all, these people were people he could not afford to offend. Shwe Haolang and the others' eyes swept across the lobby. The people who were eating noticed Shwe Haolang and the others' eyes, and their faces became ugly. They just did not know who would be the unlucky one. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were still eating. The eyes of Shwe Haolang and the others were not a threat to them. Lu Jingqi's eyes fell on a purple figure because she found that the woman was wearing the same clothes as her. "Sister, look at that table." Lu Jingqi pulled Lu Jinglin and pointed to the place where Xia Jiqing was sitting. Lu Jinglin's eyes swept and suddenly understood Lu Jingqi's plan. Her sister never liked others to have the same things as her. "Shwe Haolang, let's sit at that table," Lu Jinglin said. Looking in the direction Lu Jinglin pointed, Shwe Haolang found that there were 4 women sitting at the table. Originally, in his opinion, it was very inappropriate to drive the women away. It was suspected of bullying the weak. However, he had been in love with Lu Jinglin for a long time. If Lu Jinglin asked him to do something, he would naturally not refuse. Everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sympathetically. They were really unlucky. Bailey Hongzhuang had her back to Shwe Haolang and the others, but she knew what had happened after she felt the sympathetic gazes of the crowd. "Hongzhuang, they're coming towards us." There was a touch of anger on Xia Jiqing's face. There were so many people who didn't look for him, but he looked for them. Didn't he think that the 4 of them were easy to bully? At this moment, Shwe Haolang's voice rang out behind Bailey Hongzhuang. "We want to use this table. You can leave. I'll pay for the food and drinks for you." Shwe Haolang looked arrogant, but when he saw Lu Qinyue opposite Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes couldn't help but change a bit. Such a beauty, even more beautiful than Lu Jinglin. This temperament, this appearance, she was simply the goddess in every man's heart. Lu Jinglin also noticed this, and her face couldn't help but turn ugly. Her appearance had always been praised, and now there was a woman who was more beautiful than her? Oh, it's really generous. Xia Jiqing sneered and stood up directly. Why should we leave? Shui Haolang and the others' eyes lit up again. Although the appearance of the woman in the purple dress was not as beautiful as the woman in the hibiscus dress, she was also delicate and smart. Chapter 640. What a big tone! Zhang Yunfeng also stood up and looked at Lu Jingqi unkindly. You are not the only cultivators here. In the next moment, Zhang Yunfeng took out her sword and slammed it on the table. At the same time, Gong Shaoqing and the others at the next table also stood up. They did not like to cause trouble, but since trouble came knocking on their door, they would not back down even half a step. Seeing Gong Shaoqing and the others suddenly stand up, Shui Haolang and the others were stunned. They thought that the four ladies were at the same table, but they did not expect that the four men at the next table were also together. In this way it was troublesome. Lu Jingqi's face turned ugly. She did not expect that she would pick out such a large group of people. I'll give you 3 seconds to get out, Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. This kind of people who relied on their strength to bully others, it was not worthwhile to give them any face. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shui Haolang and the others' faces instantly turned ugly. Even if the other party had 8 people, they only felt that it was a little troublesome. They did not expect that the woman in white, who had her back facing them, would ask them to get out. What a big tone! Lu Jingqi snorted. What's so great about you? What right do you have to ask us to get out? We are eating here and you ran over to ask us to leave for no reason. You have no manners at all. I'm already giving you face by asking you to get out. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold, without any warmth. Fortunately, this group of people was up against them. If it was an ordinary person, they would only be forced to leave with their tails between their legs. This was an insult. As soon as these words were spoken, the faces of Lu Jingqi and the others changed. This woman was truly sharp-tongued, making them unable to refute her. The other guests in the hall nodded after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. This girl was right. The slightly nervous crowd now looked curiously at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. There was a good show to watch. Shui Haolang and the others had picked a tough bone out of thousands of people. Just by looking at the white-clothed girl and her group, they knew that they also had extraordinary identities. After a short moment of anger, Lu Jingqi sneered and said, If you have the ability to talk to us, why don't you turn your back to us? Don't tell me you're too ugly to turn around? Lu Jingqi had always been unreasonable. So what if she was unreasonable? She was an unreasonable person. Strength was the reason. Has anyone ever seen an emperor talk reason with a beggar? However, listening to Lu Jingqi's words, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but laugh. This Lu Jingqi was really an idiot. Hong Zhuang was the prettiest girl in their group, and now he was saying that Hong Zhuang was too ugly to show her face. Not only Xia Jiqing, but Dongfang Yu and the others on the side couldn't help but laugh. If it was in other aspects it would be fine, but in terms of beauty, no one could compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. In the next moment, under the stunned eyes of Lu Jingqi and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned around. A mocking smile appeared on her gorgeous face. What did you just say? Hiss. Chapter 641. For a long time, Shui Haolang thought that Lu Jinglin was already an extremely beautiful woman. In the entire Beihai College, Lu Jinglin and Lu Jingqi were famous sisters, and many cultivators wanted to pursue them. However, the eyes of these sisters were extremely high, ordinary people simply could not enter their eyes, and only special enrollment students had the opportunity to get to know them. He had long regarded Lu Jinglin as his goal. Although Lu Jinglin was arrogant, at least her words were not too excessive. In his opinion, beautiful and powerful women had the capital to be arrogant. As for Lu Jingqi, she could cause a lot of trouble, and her sharp mouth was simply unforgiving. Therefore, between these two sisters, he did not hesitate to regard Lu Jinglin as his goal. Now, the students of the entire Beihai College knew that Lu Jinglin was his goal, and they were very close, so he had been somewhat proud. Unexpectedly, none of the four women in front of him was worse than Lu Jinglin, especially the woman in white and the woman in the hibiscus dress. When Lu Jingqi saw the appearance of Bailey Hong Zhuang, her eyes were instantly filled with shock, and her face turned into the color of a pig's liver. She wanted to use this opportunity to ridicule the woman in white, but she did not think that she was simply looking for abuse. No matter how good she was at arguing, she couldn't answer the woman in white's rhetorical question. Lu Jingqi opened her mouth but did not know what to say, and the original arrogance dissipated in an instant. The people around saw this scene and couldn't help but laugh. This was really asking for humiliation. The waiter, who was originally in a difficult position, also revealed a somewhat relieved expression. The attitude of Xue Haolang and the others really made him very angry, but because he was not a match for Xue Haolang and the others, he could only swallow his anger. Now that he saw Xue Haolang and others suffer, he naturally felt that he had vented his anger. Bailey Hongzhuang did not care what Lu Jingqi wanted to say, and directly raised her finger. 3. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, the faces of Xue Haolang and others were gloomy. The move of the woman in white was a slap in the face. If they left like this, then where would their face go? 2. Dongfang Yu and the others stood where they were without a care. In fact, the other party's provocation had also angered them. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions made them feel very happy. "Miss, your attitude is a bit too much." At this time, Xiao Lanmei stood up, his eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. His cold eyes were filled with a bit of fiery color. It would be a pity if such a beauty were to cause such a ruckus that there was no turning back. Seeing Xiao Lanmei suddenly stand up, Lu Jinglin and the others had a strange look in their eyes. For Xiao Lanmei's temperament, everyone had a good understanding of him. He didn't care about ordinary things at all. Therefore, Xiao Lanmei almost never appeared in front of them. However, they didn't dare to underestimate Xiao Lanmei for even half a second. Xiao Lanmei was the strongest among them. It was because they knew Xiao Lanmei's temperament that they were shocked when they saw Xiao Lanmei suddenly stand up. Chapter 642. At the thought of this, Lu Jinglin and Lu Jingqi looked at each other. Their faces were somewhat ugly. "It was indeed our fault. Why don't we bury the hatchet and make friends? Otherwise, once we start fighting, it won't be good for us." Xiao Lanmei's face was full of confidence. Although the other side had 8 people, they also had 8 people. Although it was not clear what the other side's strength was, just from looking at their age, they should be about the same. Once they started fighting, both sides would be injured, which was not a good thing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao Lanmei indifferently. This guy now had a sanctimonious appearance. She did not forget what he said before. This person was definitely a guy who would not be soft-hearted. As Xiao Lanmei's voice fell, the expression of Xia Jiqing and the others changed a bit. As Xiao Lanmei said, once they started fighting, the result could not be completely guaranteed. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned back and sat down. She actually continued to eat. Looking at this scene, Xiao Lanmei's face was slightly ugly. Lu Jingqi could not help but say, "Hey, what do you mean? Didn't this young master say that we bury the hatchet? Then I will treat it as if this matter never happened. As for friends, we have different paths, so let's forget about it." After Bailey Hongzhuang sat down, Xia Jiqing and the others also sat down heartlessly. They directly treated Xiao Lanmei and the others who were standing on the side as heir. At the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang was their junior in the special enrollment class. Now, after the trip to the ruins, Bailey Hongzhuang had directly broken through to the innate realm. In the world of cultivation, the strong were always respected, regardless of age. It was precisely because of this that Bailey Hongzhuang had now become their leader, and for this result, none of them were the slightest bit unconvinced. Xiao Lanmei's face was a bit green. For the first time, someone chose to refuse him when he took the initiative to make friends. Moreover, it was in such a way that did not give him any face. This made him, who had always thought highly of himself, somewhat unable to stand it. Aren't you thinking too highly of yourself? Senior Xiao wants to be friends with you, and you're actually unwilling? Lu Jingqi raised her voice, her eyes filled with disbelief. Do you know who we are? When Lu Jingqi said the word senior, the expressions of Gong Shaoqing and the others changed a little. Previously, they had thought that with so many young cultivators gathered together, it was very likely that they were from the academy. At this moment, when they heard Lu Jingqi's words, they were even more certain of their guess. The students of Beihai College are so arrogant outside? The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a devilish smile. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a cold light. Originally, they just wanted to have a good meal, but because of the actions of this group of people, their mood was ruined. Beihai College. The people in the lobby were stunned after hearing the name of Beihai College. Although the most famous college in the Qing dynasty was Lingyin College, the name of Beihai College was still well known to them. It was a gathering place for geniuses, and these young people were actually from Beihai College. Their identity was extraordinary. Chapter 643. The students of Beihai College were not surprised that the woman in white had guessed their identity. What surprised them the most was that the woman in white had guessed their identity and still had such an attitude. We are not ordinary students of Beihai College, Lu Jingqi emphasized. In the eyes of ordinary people, the students of Beihai College were already amazing people. However, as special enrollment students, their future was even brighter. They were far from being comparable to other students of Beihai College. Aren't you just special enrollment students? Do you really need to act like this? Xia Jiqing sneered. For Lu Jingqi, she was the one who was most unpleasant to the eye. Previously, Lu Jingqi pointed at them, and this woman was wearing the same dress as her. She was also very proud of being able to become a special enrollment student of Kanglin College. However, she was far less arrogant than Lu Jingqi. Hearing this, Lu Jingqi was even more angry. Who were these people? How dare they act like this? So what if we are arrogant? Who are you? I think you don't know the power of our Beihai College's special enrollment students. With Lu Jingqi's voice falling, the special enrollment students of Beihai College looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with an unkind expression. As special enrollment students, they had always been respected by everyone. They had never been provoked like this before. This tone, they could not swallow it. It seems that they are going to fight. They are the special enrollment students of Beihai College. I don't know the identity of the woman in white and the others. They are facing them without the slightest fear. If they really start fighting, it'll be a good show. Everyone was talking about it. This kind of good show was rare on weekdays. They also wanted to know how powerful the special enrollment students of Beihai College were. Gong Shaoqing and the others also took out their weapons. The competition between cultivators had always been real. They had intended to ignore them, but Lu Jingqi had been looking for trouble. If they continued to endure, wouldn't it weaken the reputation of their college? What's more, the students of Beihai College were their opponents. They did not need to offend them. Anyway, they were originally standing in different camps. Special enrollment students of Kanglin College, Gong Shaoqing slowly said. When these words came out, Xiao Lanmei and the others were stunned. No matter how they thought about it, they did not think that the woman in white and the others turned out to be special enrollment students of Kanglin College. This was truly a case of enemies meeting on a narrow road. They were all rushing from the school to Lingyin College, but they did not expect to meet each other at the border of the Qing dynasty. Kanglin College. The onlookers were dumbfounded. The Kanglin College was also famous and didn't lose to the Beichin College. They didn't expect the students of the two colleges to collide. No wonder they refused to give way to each other and were at loggerheads with each other. It turned out that they represented two different academies. Xiao Lanmei finally understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had such an attitude towards him. It turned out that the other party had already seen through their identity. Now, although the relationship between Beihai College and Kanglan College had not completely fallen out, they also understood the origin of the grievances. Thinking of this, Xiao Lanmei's face looked better. Who was I? It turns out to be a student of the Azure Water School. Chapter 644. Kanglan College had not achieved good results in the last two college tournament. Although this time they had made a name for themselves in the ancient ruins, this college tournament was specially prepared for them. Once Kanglan College failed again, they would not be able to raise their heads in front of Lingyin College. Beihai College had joined forces with Lingyin College a few years ago. If Kanglan College failed, it would be good for them. I was wondering who was so great. It turned out to be the specially enrolled students of Kanglan College who had not achieved good results for 2 consecutive years. Lu Jinglin's face was filled with a smug smile, but her dark almond eyes flashed with jealousy. For a long time, Xiao Lanmei had not paid much attention to her. The woman in front of her was just the first time they met, but Xiao Lanmei treated her differently. How could she not be angry? Thinking of this, Lu Jinglin naturally tried her best to laugh at Bailey Hongzhuang. She wanted the other party to not be able to raise their heads. The faces of Gong Xiaoqing and the others changed a bit. Lu Jinglin's words were clearly mocking them. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered, her expression cold and indifferent. As a cultivator, even if you fail, you can't lose your courage. Compared to those who only know how to flatter and curry favor with those in power, you don't know how much better. Well said. Xia Jiqing clapped her hands. You are just the dogs of Lingyin College. I don't know what you are so proud of. You are looking for death. Lu Jinglin immediately took out her weapon and pointed it at Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing was not afraid. She took out her whip and looked at Lu Jinglin without fear. If you have the guts, then do it. Don't just talk nonsense. I don't have the patience. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also took out their weapons. The two sides had reached this point. There was no solution other than fighting. If you have the ability, let's go out and fight. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. They had a large number of people. If they fought in this restaurant, they would undoubtedly hurt others. It was better to go out and fight. Let's fight. Lu Jingqi shouted angrily. She had never been so angry in her life. She wanted to see how strong this woman was. In the next moment, everyone left the restaurant together. Before leaving, Bailey Hongzhuang paid for the food and drink. Even though the waiter tried his best to refuse, she still paid. The waiter was extremely grateful. Bailey Hongzhuang had not only solved a huge problem for him, she had also prevented the restaurant from being damaged. He rarely saw such a good person. Not only the attendant, but the other people in the hall also nodded after seeing this scene. Although I don't know how strong the two colleges are, I think the students of the Kanglan College are much better than the students of the Beihai College. It was unknown who sided with emotion, but it drew everyone's approval. Yes, the students of Kanglan College are far better than Beihai College in both appearance and character. The students of Beihai College are just a group of rich kids who rely on a little talent. This kind of person, it is better to have no talent. In the future, when they have strength, they will only harm others. Outside the restaurant, Xue Haoling and the others heard the discussion of the crowd. Their faces suddenly became very ugly. Chapter 645. As soon as they walked out of the restaurant, the cultivators of the two schools immediately got into formation. They wanted to use their own strength to let the other side understand that they had to pay a huge price for offending them. Lu Jingqi directly set Bailey Hongzhuang as her target. However, before she could reach Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing had already stopped her. Your opponent is me. Seeing Xia Jiqing, Lu Jingqi's eyes showed a hint of disgust. This woman wearing the same clothes as her, she felt extremely disgusted. I will beat you to a pulp, Lu Jingqi said angrily. If you have the ability, then do it. There is no point in talking so much nonsense. For Lu Jingqi's words, Xia Jiqing was not afraid. This woman's temper was greater than her strength. She had long been dissatisfied and just wanted to teach her a lesson. Lu Jinglin came in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. You will regret what you have just done. For this woman who could make Xiao Lanmei look at her differently, no matter what, she absolutely could not let her go. Bailey Hongzhuang originally wanted to treat Xiao Lanmei as an opponent. After all, she was the strongest in the team and should also be the strongest of the other side. She did not expect Lu Jinglin to come to her door. However, she did not care. It was the same no matter who she beat. The battle broke out in an instant. Everyone's spirits surged and directly faced their opponents. Vigorous elemental energy undulations spread out in the street, and the surrounding air seemed to have become more oppressive in an instant. The surrounding peddlers all left after seeing this scene. If they were implicated, they wouldn't be able to do anything even if they cried for help. Bailey Hongzhuang directly raised her hand, and the Lu Guang sword appeared in her hand. She moved like a ghost, and in the blink of an eye, she was behind Lu Jinglin. Lu Jinglin's reaction was also very fast. As a special enrollment student of the Zhonglan College, she naturally had some skills. Ding ding ding. The two swords collided and burst into sparks. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hold back either. She hadn't had an opponent for a long time. Now that she had a good fight, she also felt happy. However, it was clear that Lu Jinglin was not the opponent that Bailey Hongzhuang needed. Because, in just a short exchange of blows, Lu Jinglin had already shown signs of defeat. Lu Jinglin never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength would be so strong. Just by exchanging blows, the other party's strength gave her a lot of pressure. Every time she responded, she had to rely on origin energy to increase her strength. On the other hand, her opponent had a relaxed expression, as if he didn't use any strength at all. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang's palm shot out, and Lu Jinglin's body flew out directly. Even though she had reacted quickly, she still fell to the ground. Chi! Lu Jinglin couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale. Seeing this, the cultivators of Beihai College were stunned. They had just exchanged blows and Lu Jinglin was already seriously injured? Everyone's eyes couldn't help but fall on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. This beautiful woman, was her strength so strong? Sister. Seeing that Lu Jinglin was injured, Lu Jingqi also did not want to continue fighting and quickly rushed to Lu Jinglin's side. Chapter 646. The next moment, Xia Jiqing's sword directly slashed. Her youthful and pretty face evoked a playful smile. She put away the sword, crossed her arms around her chest, and smiled at Lu Jingqi who was leaving. This kind of woman should be taught a lesson, otherwise, she would not learn from her mistakes. Lu Jingqi did not notice what had happened, but quickly came to Lu Jinglin's side. Sister, how are you? She only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was an empty shell, but she did not think that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was so strong. It was just a face-to-face effort, but her sister was injured and vomited blood. Lu Jinglin covered her chest. The palm of the woman in white fell solidly on her chest. She only felt a burning pain in her internal organs, as if they were about to be displaced. It was extremely uncomfortable. However, after seeing Lu Jingqi approaching her, Lu Jinglin could not help but widen her eyes and say, Jingqi, you cough cough. Lu Jinglin had just vomited blood and choked when she spoke. She was stunned for a long time and could not say anything. At the same time, other people's eyes also fell on Lu Jingqi. She herself was fine, but her perfectly fine clothes had been ripped off? Sister, are you okay? Lu Jingqi patted Lu Jinglin's back. Although her personality was not good, she was still very concerned about her sister. She caught a glimpse of purple, and Lu Jingqi could not help but have some doubts. Her eyes turned slightly, and when she saw the purple clothes that fell on the ground, her eyes could not help but show a touch of doubt. This purple clothes. How could it be on the ground? And it was so familiar? Lu Jingqi could not help but be startled. When she saw Xia Jiqing not far away looking at her with her clothes intact, her face suddenly changed. She looked down and found that her outer clothes had been torn off, leaving only her inner clothes. At the same time, Lu Jinglin's breath came back. Jingqi, your clothes. A high decibel sharp cry broke out on the street. Lu Jingqi was so angry that she stomped her feet, but she was also ashamed and annoyed. They were fighting on the street and the movement was great. Many people around came to watch. Wouldn't she be seen by everyone? Lu Jingqi quickly took out a piece of clothes from her qiankuan bag and put it on. Then she looked at Xia Jiqing angrily. You are too despicable. Xia Jiqing shrugged innocently. Anything can happen in a fight, you should understand. Lu Jingqi's face was livid. She knew that Xia Jiqing was quibbling, but she had no way. You wait, I will definitely get my revenge. As soon as her voice fell, Lu Jingqi did not care about the crowd and quickly ran away. She had lost all her face. How could she continue to stay here? Seeing Lu Jingqi and Lu Jingqi, 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 and Jingqi. Jingqi, 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 Jingqi of you, Jingqi, Jingqi, Qi, Jingqi, 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 Qi, Jingqi, Jingqi, and of them, Jingqi. Anytime. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips evoked an enchanting smile. Jiqing's sword was really amazing. No one would have thought that this competition would end in such a way. Don't be too proud. Chapter 647. If you have the ability, don't leave. Let's continue to fight. Xia Jiqing's face was full of a proud smile. She thought that the special enrollment students of Beihai College were strong, but they were just a group of guys who only knew how to talk. Xiao Lanmei looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang, but did not speak, and left with the team of Beihai College. Oh, I thought it was great. Xia Jiqing twisted her body, her face was full of excitement. Lu Jingqi's expression was so wonderful, I didn't expect it to be so funny, haha. Haha. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but laugh. Jiqing, you are really a genius, I don't know how you came up with this idea. It was just a flash of inspiration, a stroke of genius. Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows, looking like a clown. This time, Lu Jingqi must hate you. Lu Qinyu sighed. Xia Jiqing shrugged indifferently. If she hates me, then she hates me. Anyway, she and I are destined to be enemies. In this regard, everyone nodded. The hatred of the students of Beihai College was not something they needed to care about. Even if they did not offend them now, when they arrived at Lingyin College, they would still be opponents. Originally, this was an opportunity to test their strength. Gong Shaoqing said slowly. Xiao Lanmei's strength is not simple. He and Xiao Lanmei had only fought for a short time, but he could feel that Xiao Lanmei had not used his full strength. He should have deliberately held back. Listening to Gong Shaoqing's words, everyone's face was slightly dignified. Beihai College was one of the 3 major colleges. The strength of its special enrollment students would naturally not be bad. Even if we test them now, I am afraid that we will not be able to find out their true strength. They will definitely hide something, just as we will keep some cards in our hands. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with wisdom and thought. The current fight was nothing more than a battle of personal feelings, unless they could force the cultivators of Beihai College to the last step. However, the current situation was certainly impossible. She believed that what was happening now was not only known to them, but also to the mentors of the 2 colleges. As long as the mentors were present, they would not be able to find out the true strength of the other side. Everyone nodded. Bailey Hongzhuang's words made sense. You are right, but we also have some understanding of the team of Beihai College. It is the harvest of this meal. Zhang Yunfeng walked beside Xia Jiqing and couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Jiqing, your previous move was really satisfying, haha. Xia Jiqing chuckled and nodded. That Lu Jingqi is really annoying. Now that I have something on her, I want to see how she can be so arrogant in front of me next time. Everyone is tired. Let's find an inn to rest first. Dongfang Yu suggested. All right. After walking for a short distance, they casually found an inn and walked in. Dear guests, are you here to stay? The shopkeeper welcomed them with a smile. Although their business had always been good in this border city, they didn't expect to have two big waves of customers today. In that case, their inn would be filled to the brim. Dongfang Yu nodded. 8 guest rooms. Do you have any? Chapter 648. Everyone had a comfortable smile on their faces. Today they could finally have a good rest. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were preparing to go upstairs, a figure appeared on the second floor. When the figure saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He quickly said, "Why are you here?" Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also had a strange look on their faces. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. This phrase was really not wrong at all. They had just had a fight with the cultivators of Beihai College, and now they were meeting again? Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Are you blind? We came here naturally to stay in the inn. Are we here to see you? Xia Jiqing sneered. I think you guys just want to stay in the same inn as us on purpose. Lu Jingqi's face was pale. Since she was a child, she had never been so humiliated like today. Xia Jiqing and the others had followed her. Wasn't this deliberately embarrassing her? You think too much, we are not that interested in you. Xia Jiqing looked at Lu Jingqi with disgust. This Lu Jingqi really thought that she was someone important. We have booked this inn, you can go somewhere else. While Lu Jingqi and Xia Jiqing were arguing, Xiao Lanmei and the others also came out of the house. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also appear here, their faces could not help but change a little. What was going on? The shopkeeper did not tell us that you have booked the inn. If you do not want to live with us, you can just move out. Zhang Yunfeng said coldly. Gong Xiaoqing's cold face also showed a touch of impatience. He said, "Take us to the room." The students of Beihai College were a group of troublemakers, and he had no intention of continuing to argue with them. Since no matter how they argued, they could not come to a conclusion, it was better to go back and rest. When they arrived at Lingyin College, it would not be too late to make a move. The shopkeeper's expression was a little awkward. He thought that he was lucky today to have received 2 good orders. He didn't expect that these 2 groups of people were like fire and water. Yes. The shopkeeper replied and immediately led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others forward. However, Lu Jingqi blocked the shopkeeper's way. I said, we will book this in today. Go somewhere else. Xue Haolang directly took out a money bag and placed it in the shopkeeper's hand. Did you hear that? We'll book this inn of yours. Chase them out. Seeing this, the shopkeeper also had a difficult expression on his face. Sir, you didn't mention this before. This is really difficult for this little one. The youths of these 2 teams were obviously not ordinary people. If he accidentally offended them, he would be the unlucky one in the future. Xue Haolang, why do you only know this move? Bai Junyu sneered. This guy only knew how to use money to make things difficult for the waiters. Didn't he have any other skills? Yes, Xue Haolang, you are also a cultivator of Beihai College. You only know how to make things difficult for the shopkeeper and the waiters. Aren't you too useless? When these words came out, Xue Haolang's face was pale. How could he be such a person? Chapter 649. I am rich, what can you do about it? Xue Haolang directly said such domineering words in anger. In this world, money was an extremely important thing. In this kind of thing, it was natural to compete with financial resources. After hearing Xue Haolang's words, Lu Jingqi's face also showed a smile. These words were domineering, they were rich. Xiao Lanmei's face showed a touch of impatience. It was a waste of time to argue about this kind of thing. He couldn't help but say, it's just one night, it doesn't matter if we stay in the same inn. After walking from the previous restaurant, the closest inn was this one. It was precisely because of this that he believed that the cultivators of Kanglan College did not deliberately follow them. What's more, their mentors were not far from them, so there would not be any problems. However, Lu Jingqi did not give up. How can that be? This time they are pestering us. If we agree, then where will the face of Beihai College go? A touch of dissatisfaction emerged in Lu Jingqi's heart. She only thought that Xiao Lanmei had taken a fancy to Bailey Hongzhuang, so he agreed to let them stay here. As a result, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't stay here any longer. Shui Haoling, you drive them out. Hearing this, Xiao Lanmei looked at Lu Jingqi indifferently. He was too lazy to say anything and went straight back to his room. Apparently, he did not intend to waste time on this matter. Shui Haoling nodded and another bag of money appeared in his hand. I will give you double the price, you drive them out. The shopkeeper looked at Shui Haoling and Bailey Hongzhuang with embarrassment. This kind of thing really made him not know how to decide. If he had known earlier, he would rather not do this business today than encounter this situation. Young master, don't make it difficult for me. I am just a small business, ordinary people. I can't afford to offend any of you. Shui Haoling acted as if he did not hear the shopkeeper's words and said, 3 times the price. Xia Jiqing and the others looked at each other. They were speechless about Shui Haoling's rich performance. This guy wanted to use money to kill them. Hong Zhuang, why don't we change to another inn? Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but ask. With Shui Haoling and the others blocking the way, they wouldn't be able to get in for a while. If they continued to stay here, it would only make things difficult for the shopkeeper. Hearing Zhang Yunfeng's words, Shui Haoling and Lu Jingqi's faces were filled with pride. They wanted the other party to back off. Now that they had lost in the restaurant, it could be said that they had turned the tables in this inn. Bai Junyu and the others had ugly expressions. Encountering this kind of guy who used money to smash people, they could only respond with a speechless attitude. In fact, although they were considered wealthy, they were not extravagant people. Moreover, once they competed with Shui Haoling in terms of wealth, the price would probably rise endlessly. However, in the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did something that shocked everyone. A bag of money also appeared in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and she said, "Shopkeeper, we will buy this inn." As soon as these words came out, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with astonishment. The faces of Xia Jiqing and the others were even more horrified. Domineering. This was real domineering. Chapter 650. Lu Qinyue, Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing looked at each other. In fact, when they first went to the Luo Yun Mountains, they had already seen the rich side of Bailey Hongzhuang. The Qi recovery pill was a very precious medicinal pill, but Bailey Hongzhuang had a lot of it. Compared to that, Shui Haoling's current spending was really nothing. Booking an inn was nothing, even if the price was several times higher, it was still not much. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, she directly bought the entire inn. With such a comparison, they finally understood what a real rich person was. Shui Haoling and Lu Jingqi were also stunned. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing. This woman, was she crazy? They were just staying here for one night and she actually bought the whole inn? As a result, they, who were previously clamoring, fell into a disadvantage. What should they do? Although Shui Haoling had money, it was too wasteful for him to buy an inn directly. Suddenly, Shui Haoling's eyes were fixed on the money bag that Bailey Hongzhuang handed to the shopkeeper. The money bag was so small that it could only hold a few gold coins. Wouldn't it be a joke to buy the whole inn with such a small money bag? The Qing dynasty was a big country and Longuang City was a border city. There was a lot of trade and the price of this inn was much more expensive than ordinary places. It was simply impossible to buy the Credential Inn at the same price. With your little money, it's not enough to book this inn, and you want to buy it? What a joke! Shui Haoling laughed. Hearing this, Lu Jingqi's eyes also fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's money bag. Looking at the deflated appearance of the money bag, Lu Jingqi couldn't help but laugh. Haha, what a country bumpkin. You really came from a small place. With such little money you want to buy the whole inn. Are you here to be a joke? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced coldly at Lu Jingqi. No matter what, before you really understand, I advise you not to be too proud. Otherwise, you will only be a joke. Compared to the disbelief of the practitioners of Beihai College, the practitioners of Kanglan College were full of trust in Bailey Hongzhuang. What kind of character Hongzhuang was, they knew it was impossible for her to make such a mistake. Shopkeeper, open it and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. The shopkeeper glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang, and there was a bit of worry in his expression. Although there was a conflict between the two teams, he had a better impression of the team that came later. After all, they didn't mean they were. He didn't want to see this girl make a joke. However, when he opened the money bag, the original worry in his heart, and the original worry in his heart had disappeared in an instant. Purple gold coins. The shopkeeper laughed. Xue Haolang and Lu Jingqi were dumbfounded. They didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to take out purple gold coins. No wonder the money bag was so thin, it turned out to be like this. In a flash, the faces of the two became extremely ugly. Recalling what they had said before, it was simply a slap in the face. The more proud they were before, the more embarrassed they were now. Haha, two country bumpkins were pretending to be rich, now they are a joke. Chapter 651. You! Lu Jingqi was so angry that she stomped her feet. The more she looked at Xia Jiqing, the more uncomfortable she felt. So far, she had always been at a disadvantage. What's wrong with me? Xia Jiqing shook her head proudly. Now we have bought this inn, you can go. You want to buy it, but the shopkeeper hasn't said he will sell it. Lu Jingqi looked at the shopkeeper. Since the shopkeeper was so hesitant, she believed that he would not easily sell the inn now. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang said something to the shopkeeper, and everyone present was stunned again. Shopkeeper, I only bought your inn for 1 day. Tomorrow the inn will still be yours. As soon as these words came out, the cultivators of Beihai College were instantly petrified. With so much money, it was already too much to buy the inn. Now, she only wanted to buy the inn for 1 day. Wasn't it too exaggerated? Could she be any more rich? Even if she had money, she wouldn't be this rich, right? She was trying to anger them to death. Xue Haolang was speechless at the moment. How could they compare? Although he had always been very generous, it was better to use this money to buy some cultivation resources. If he wasted it on a fight, wouldn't his father beat him to death? The shopkeeper no longer hesitated at this moment and quickly said, Miss, this inn is yours today. I will pack up and go out immediately. The next moment, the shopkeeper no longer cared about the reaction of Xue Haolang and the others. He directly returned the money that Xue Haolang gave them and ran down to pack up his things. In this regard, Lu Jingqi couldn't say anything. This kind of good business, only an idiot wouldn't do it. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others slowly walked to the second floor, no longer looking at Lu Jingqi and the others. Now the outcome had been decided. Xia Jiqing looked at Lu Jingqi sarcastically. You deserve it. If it wasn't for Lu Jingqi's trouble, they would have stayed here now. It was nothing at all. Xia Jiqing forced Hongzhuang to use a big move, and now they were going to be driven out. This was really shameful. After walking up to the second floor, Bai Junyu still couldn't hide the emotion on his face. Hongzhuang's move is really too domineering. Xia Jiqing raised her eyebrows. Hongzhuang has always been very domineering, haha. But so much money, isn't it too wasteful? Lu Qinyue frowned slightly, her eyes revealing some regret. Hearing this, the crowd couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. They had indeed vented their anger, but the one who had suffered the most was Hongzhuang. Seeing everyone's concerned gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Don't worry, it's nothing. Although she had spent some money, she had also made a lot of money. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house, Xiao He and Xiao Bai proudly came in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, shook their paws, and said, "Master, do we have a reward?" Xiao He and Xiao Bai were shaking their paws, and there were 2 Qiankuan bags hanging on their paws. One was Xue Haolang's, and the other was Lu Jingqi's. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. "Eat as much as you want." "Hooray!" Xiao He and Xiao Bai high-fived, their faces full of excitement. Xue Haolang and Lu Jingqi, these 2 idiots, were so angry that they didn't notice that the Qiankuan bags had disappeared. Chapter 652. Bailey Hongzhuang opened Xue Haolang's Qiankuan bag, and the pile of golden coins directly blinded her eyes. Xue Haolang was right, he was indeed very rich, but now the money had fallen into the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. It seems that Xue Haolang's family is quite rich. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a faint smile. Money, this kind of thing, she has always been the more the better. But this guy doesn't have the courage of the master. Under the temptation of a sumptuous meal, Blackie immediately began to flatter him. In fact, Xue Haolang's Qiankuan bag was really a lot of money, but this guy didn't have the domineering attitude to spend money. Although Xue Haolang usually spent money very generously, but if the price was too high, he couldn't help but take it out. Putting away the 2 Qiankuan bags, Bailey Hongzhuang washed up and went to rest. She was going to go out again at night to buy more food and put it in the chaos ring. After all, Xiao He and Xiao Bai, these 2 foodies, had an amazing appetite. Lu Jingqi and the others reluctantly moved out of the inn. They only felt that they had lost face today, but they couldn't help it. In this world, there were many people who spent a lot of money, but there were very few people who would buy an entire inn in one go. For this woman in white, everyone was helpless to the extreme. This woman simply couldn't find the slightest weakness. Whether it was appearance, strength, or background, she seemed to be first class, which really made her feel an indescribable sense of frustration. Xiao Lanmei didn't care about it and walked out of the inn. It was not a big deal to change to another inn. The true competition between cultivators was based on strength and nothing else. However, this woman in white really made him a bit interested. Such a perfect woman, he was afraid that there were only a few men who would not be interested in her. "Xue Haolang, do you know the specific information of the cultivators of the Kanglan College?" Xiao Lanmei asked. Hearing this, Xue Haolang shook his head. Although he liked to inquire about information, he had never put the special enrollment students of the Kanglan College in his eyes, so he never inquired about their information. Now, it seemed that he had really miscalculated. If he had been able to obtain more information earlier, he would not have ended up in such a situation. When the practitioners of Beihai College checked into the new inn and Xue Haolang was about to pay, his face suddenly became ugly. He continued to grope his body, but his face became increasingly pale. "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible." "Xue Haolang, what are you doing?" Lu Jingqi said impatiently. What happened before had already made her very unhappy. Now, she just wanted to find a place to rest. Unfortunately, Xue Haolang was still delaying her. "My Qiankuan bag is gone," Xue Haolang said. There were quite a few treasures in his Qiankuan bag. If he lost it, his loss would be too great. As soon as Xue Haolang finished speaking, everyone's expression changed. "Why don't you take a good look? Could it be that you lost it during the fight earlier?" Xue Haolang shook his head. "That's impossible. When I was at the inn, I took money out of my Qiankuan bag." Chapter 653. Lu Jingqi was too lazy to pay attention to Xue Haolang. She just wanted to rest and immediately went to touch her Qiankuan bag. But when he touched it, it was empty. "Ah! How did my Qiankuan bag disappear?" Lu Jingqi anxiously said. "It must be the Kanglan College's cultivators who stole it." Lu Jinglin's face also showed a touch of worry. "Then should we go and find them?" Lu Jingqi nodded. "It must be them. Otherwise, this Qiankuan bag would not be lost inexplicably." Xiao Lanmei looked at Lu Jingqi and others indifferently. He directly paid for the accommodation and said, "You have no evidence. Even if you go, you will only be humiliating yourself." Xiao Lanmei did not pay attention to the crowd and went directly to the second floor of the inn. He had never liked trouble, but wherever Lu Jingqi was, trouble never stopped. He did not intend to continue to accompany them in their nonsense. Looking at Xiao Lanmei's action, Lu Jingqi's face became ugly. Xiao Lanmei's action obviously meant that he did not intend to pay attention to them. "Sister." Lu Jingqi angrily stomped her feet. "I am so angry." Lu Jinglin's eyes showed a strong sense of helplessness. "Jingqi, we can only endure. If Xiao Lanmei went with them, they may have some chance of winning." But Xiao Lanmei had already made his attitude clear. It did not make any sense for them to go. Not to mention that they were not as good at talking as the woman in the white dress and the woman in the purple dress. They may not be able to beat them. Lu Jingqi also understood Lu Jinglin's meaning, but she really couldn't swallow this anger. She was really angry. "I must kill them. Otherwise, it will be difficult to relieve the hatred in my heart." Xue Haolang's face was livid. He had never suffered such a big loss. This time, he had brought a lot of property. The Qing dynasty was a big country, so there would be many rare things in the imperial city. He originally intended to buy some cultivation resources or rare things in the imperial city. Now he had not even reached the imperial city, and his Qianquan bag was already lost. What should he do? When he thought of this, he hated the cultivators of the Kanglan College to the extreme. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo stood together and looked at the two middle-aged men opposite them. The atmosphere was slightly stagnant. "I did not expect that after 10 years, the Kanglan College still has not made any progress. These students also use some despicable means, cutting a woman's dress. Such means, it is shameful." On the other side, a middle-aged man in silver robes was the first to speak, and the space between his brows was filled with disdain. "Emotionhai, your student has lost, and that's that. Don't you think you lack some magnanimity by arguing like this?" Lu Huayan didn't care about the ridicule in his opponent's words. Cultivators had always only cared about success or failure. The process was not important. "We can't be considered to have lost. At most, we are slightly inferior to you in terms of despicable methods," Duan Yingwu said coldly. Fu Hongba sneered. "Duan Yingwu, you have been a mentor at Beihai College for so many years, but you haven't changed at all. You think our students as students? Compared to your students who only to twos a lot attention to the college to twos to attention. Don't tell me you didn't hear the rumors in the streets that Art Song Lan College's students are better than yours?" Chapter 654. Listening to Fu Hongbo's words, Duan Yingwu and Emotionhai's faces were ugly, and their hearts were filled with anger. They did not expect that the students of the two colleges would meet here. They had seen this scene happen nearby. The reason why they didn't stop them earlier was because they wanted to see who would emerge victorious when the students from the two academies clashed. They had always been confident that the result would be the students of Beihai College. Unexpectedly, the result was completely different from what they had imagined. The students of Kanglan College had actually suppressed them. They also understood that even if the means used by Xia Jiqing were not very bright, Bailey Hongzhuang had indeed defeated Lu Jinglin, but they did not want to lose their momentum. Lu Huayan's face revealed a smile and gave Fu Hongbo a meaningful glance. Fu Hongbo usually didn't speak much, but now that he had spoken, he directly made the other party speechless. "Today is not a competition at all. After we reach Lingyin College, I am afraid that your pride will be gone." Duan Yingwu sneered, no longer paying attention to Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo, and left with Emotionhai. They went to see the students. The performance of the students today really made them lose face. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo looked at each other, and there was a happy smile on their faces. The students of Beihai College and their mentors were too arrogant. In comparison, they felt that their students were much better. These little guys are really good today. Lu Huayan smiled. Duan Yingwu and the others are angry. I'm afraid they are rushing to reprimand the student. Lu Huayan raised his eyebrows. Should we go and see the little guys now? Fu Hongbo thought for a moment. Let them grow up by themselves. Let's go to the vice principal. It was useless for them to go to Gong Shaoqing and the others now. Was it just to praise them? Hearing this, Lu Huayan nodded. Well, the vice principal should have been waiting for us for a while. As the night slowly fell, Bailey Hongzhuang stood outside the window, looking at the unusually lively night scene of Longuang City, and a faint smile appeared on her lips. After 1,000 years, many places had changed. However, the bustling scene hadn't changed much. Master, shall we set off? Xiao He and Xiao Bai asked. They were waiting for their master to bring them to eat something delicious. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded when she saw how eager the two little guys were. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the inn. After many days of rushing, Xia Jiqing and the others felt very tired and just wanted to have a good rest. Bailey Hongzhuang did not call them. She was just going to buy some things and would be back soon. Walking on the street, although it was already nighttime, the lively scene was comparable to the daytime, and the night scene seemed to be more romantic. At Xiao He and Xiao Bai's request, Bailey Hongzhuang helped them buy a lot of things that they wanted to eat. Naturally, Baisher also wanted to eat. Today's harvest was quite rich, and Bailey Hongzhuang also let them eat. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang came to the trading market of Longuang City. Chapter 655. The trading market was the most lively place in every city, but most of the things sold here were related to cultivation. Although most of the things in the trading market were ordinary 5th grade, if one could find some treasures, it would be a great achievement. As Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the trading market, everyone's eyes were filled with amazement when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. It wasn't that they had never seen such a beautiful woman before, but they had never seen such a beautiful woman. Feeling the eyes of the crowd, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She came to the trading market on a whim. She didn't intend to come here at all. If she knew this would happen, she would have worn a black cloak, then there wouldn't be such unnecessary trouble. What a beautiful girl! I've never seen her in my entire life. This girl is a student of the Kanglan College. I advise you not to have any bad ideas, otherwise I'm afraid you won't even know how you died. There were many people in the crowd who had seen Bailey Hongzhuang before. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang and others made such a big noise in Longuang City, so many people noticed. Hearing this, the man was stunned. You said this girl is a student of the Kanglan College? Besides the students of the college, how many girls can have such a temperament? The person who spoke looked at the man with ridicule and continued to focus on his stall. The person who had the idea also gave up the idea. The cultivators of the Kanglan College were not ordinary people who could be provoked. Maybe he would accidentally poke a hornet's nest. He didn't want to die young. Not only this person, but the other people around also restrained their expressions after hearing this. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also relieved. It seemed that this afternoon's disturbance had some benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang walked while looking at the items on the stall. Until she reached the exit of the stall, Bailey Hongzhuang still didn't see anything of interest. In this regard, she didn't feel disappointed. After all, most of the things in this trading market were used by ordinary cultivators. The real treasures had already been sold at a high price, so it was normal that they couldn't find them. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, her gaze fell upon a stall. In her line of sight, a black parchment scroll was casually placed on the stall. This parchment scroll looked very ordinary, but she could feel the fluctuations of spiritual power from it. Her spiritual power was outstanding among cultivators, and the fluctuation of this spiritual power was very small. If it wasn't for her sharp spiritual power, she wouldn't have noticed it at all. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in front of the stall and looked at the items on it. There were some herbs, demon crystals, and weapons, but Bailey Hongzhuang didn't lack these three things at the moment. Other than that, there were also some unknown small objects that were of no use. The parchment scroll was placed together with these small objects. Baisher's gaze landed on the demonic crystal. He had been drooling over the demonic crystal all the way here. Now, his master finally stopped. "Girl, what do you want to buy?" The stall owner was a middle-aged man. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang stop in front of his stall, he couldn't help but ask.